Disable to share, it says.
No, wait. I'll
Okay.
give you that privilege. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
I am setting YouTube live. Okay. Okay. So okay, bro. Now you should be able to share,
Okay.
and should be on live stream as well. Yeah. I'll just record as well. I think you can start to 7 o'clock. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are able to see your screen.
But I'm not able to see. Very interesting.
No, you change the browser. We are able to see your screen. So
Change the browser.
not browser, like what you want to present, you can go there. Yeah, chapter 15. I can see that. Yeah.
You can see that. Okay.
Yeah. Chapter 15, Yoga of Supreme Person. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Pamji. All right. Hare Krishna devotees. We will start with Mangalacharan. Thank you for being patient this evening. We're going to have a Bhagavad Gita class.
So is it
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Sanalkaya Chakshur Urmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Devamrita Swami Ityanamane Pracharya Puradaksham Cha Bhaktachara Pravinata Parartha Pikarnam Yasesagratite Namaha Om Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prachasta Desatarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Sri Om Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vanchakalpataru Brasicha Vipasindibhayevasa Pratanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The devotees, we can uh, prayed Chaturslokis, Bhagavad Gita, 10.10.8 to 10.10.11. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. This is what Bhagavan Sri Krishna talking to Arjuna in these four verses. 10.9 Machitta Madgata Prana Bodhayantasya Paraspatam Pathayantasya Pandityam Dusyanti Charamanchita. The thoughts of my pure devotee dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive greatest satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another. 10.10 Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogantam yena mam lupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. 10.11 Tesam evanukampartam aham ajnanajam tamaha nasayami atmabhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Now we can recite two verses from Kunti Devi's prayers, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.821. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd man of Vrindavana, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.822. Namah Pankajanaಭಾಯ Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre. My respectful obeisance are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as lotus, whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Thank you, devotee. So we're going to actually do the 16th chapter. This was from the last week's slide, the first slide. I didn't have a chance to change it. So the Bhagavad Gita is a book of knowledge and the life manual, both for our spirit and the body. So it talks about five different aspects. One is Iswara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, the material nature, Kala, the time, Karma, the action and reaction that we all know. And the Bhagavad Gita is divided into three sections from 1 to 18 chapters. 1 to 6 chapters talks about bhakti through karma yoga. And the 7th to 12, middle 6 chapters talks about bhakti yoga purely. And 13 to 18 chapters talks about bhakti through jnana. So we are all in that category because the fact that we go to school, we have jobs, whatever, in the modern context, we are all somewhat of jnanis. We want a knowledge. So through the knowledge, we attain bhakti. And today we're going to talk about chapter 16 from divine and demonic nature from verse 1 to 3. But I want to give you a pretext of from progression of what we went so far in a broad view. Chapter 13 opened up with a question and followed by answers. Arjuna asked Bhagavan Sri Krishna about the six important things. There's Prakriti, nature; Purusha, the enjoyer; Kshetram, the field; Kshetragnam, the knower of the field; Jnanam, the knowledge; and the Gyayam, the object of the knowledge. And it basically is asking these questions not for knowing as a definition of these, but he wants to understand Bhagavan Sri Krishna's worldview through Sankhya philosophy. You all know Devahuti, son Kapila Muni, as Bhagavan Sri Krishna's incarnations prior millennium, Brahma's time, that we're actually going through in Srimad Bhagavatam classes in the morning. Devahuti prayers right now we are going through daily. So that's where Sankhya philosophy came from. Kapila Muni, Kapila Deva, who is Devahuti's son, has talked to us about. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna briefly mentions in the chapter the Sankhya philosophy. So this is opposite of science. So science is to give you comforts and make you bondage, raga. Whereas the Sankhya gives you knowledge and wisdom, and you have a lens of Bhagavan Sri Krishna's lens to see the world as it is, and then you develop bhakti based on that. And this is a timely as well as timeless. So it is not a set of data that you'll understand, but it's a way of life. And here you're looking at the attitude of looking at the world through Krishna's lens, Bhagavan Sri Krishna's lens. In the Sankhya, in a nutshell, in 13th chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about 5 panchabhutas, 5 sense organs, and the knowledge acquiring senses, and the working senses like speech, hand, legs, hands, and then sense objects form for eyes, like there are 5 sense objects. These are 20 plus 4 subtle things. There's mind, intelligence, false ego. Here he introduced unmanifested 3 modes of material nature. They're all 24, and then you have 25th is the Krishna Jnana, and Paramatma as a super soul is a 26. And this is what the 13th chapter talked about. And also, these are the 6 concepts, bedrock philosophy of Sankhya, and also the modes of nature. And the 13th chapter also talks about 20 processes of knowledge as opposed to the qualities of divine personality that we're going to get to in the 16th chapter, 1 to 3 verses. Here, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about 20 processes of knowledge. The important one is the constant, unalloyed devotion to me, which is Bhagavan Sri Krishna. That is the key. How do you attain that? Is through approaching the bona fide spiritual master. The other things are self-explanatory, you can see. And the Bhagavan Sri Krishna declares this as a process. This is a knowledge. Anything outside of these 20 is not knowledge. And in the 1322, Bhagavan Sri Krishna introduces the gunas. Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhungte Prakriti Chan Gunam Karana Guna Sangyasya Sada Sad Yoni Janmasu. Here it talks about the living entities in the material nature, thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the 3 modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets the good and evil in various species. And Prabhupada beautifully elaborates on this purport because we were transmigrate, because of this binding to material nature, transmigrate this living entity from one body to another body, just like one changes the dress, as Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about in 2nd chapter. So this is attachment caused to the material existence is the one that keeps us binding one body after the other. So And this, by this attachment to the modes of nature, if one has to raise above these three modes, that is one going to the transcendental position called Krishna consciousness. Purport Srila Prabhupada talks about. And you need to have a change. And if you don't have a change of perspective, of vision and knowledge, you will continue to be bondage from one life after the other. How do you this change comes? By hearing from authoritative source. Just like Arjuna here heard from Science of God from Bhagavan Shri Krishna, we are hearing or learning this through Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, who's a pure devotee, translated this Bhagavad Gita as it is the conversation that happened between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. So unless you have the knowledge from authoritative source, we cannot have that change Prabhupada talks about. So due to the desired lordship over the material nature only, the living entity can change the lives from demigod to beast to bird, worm, or bug. This is all due to our conditioning nature. And also 14th chapter, it gives an example of ropes, how the soul through the consciousness is bound to different three modes, sattva, rajas, tamo, gunas. Just like a car, a car has this gear, forward and backward gear, different drive gears. So just like that, our soul is bound to these material modes. In 14th chapter talks about. And we just talked about the Kapila Muni, when Devahuti asked questions about Sankhya. In this Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-15, Kapila Muni talks very clearly about the stage in which consciousness of living entity is attached by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. Just like Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks about this up until now. But when that same consciousness is attached to Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. How that happens? Through Bhakti Yoga. And then 14:26 is the very important verse in the 14th chapter. Mam chayo vibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityatham brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Here talks about one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahma. Now, in the 15th chapter, this is the Yoga of Supreme Person. There are verses 1-5 describes the process of one's freeing oneself from this weakness of heart. Weakness of heart is nothing but our Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains further here is binding ourselves to the material, three modes of material nature. And to the extent we condition our life to the material nature, we are bound. And then 6 to 20 verses, Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks about Purushottama Yoga in this chapter. So weakness of heart, like we discussed, desire to lord over the material nature, and you give up the avyabhicharani, bhakti, unalloyed devotion service. So obviously you're attached to of the material nature, matter. How do you overcome the weakness of the heart? By avyabhicharani, bhakti, that is chanting 16 rounds and regularly following 4 regulated principles. Chanting 16 rounds is this tulsi mala bead. This is a 180 beads of tulsi and then head bead. And you start counting Maha Mantra daily, at least minimum 16 rounds. If you're not there, at least you can start with 1 round. like chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So each time you count one bead, like there are 108 beads and the 16 rounds. When do we do that? It is usually in Brahma Muhurta. That is the recommended time. That is an hour and a half before sunrise, right? And most of the people who are working and staying up and late, is difficult to get up in the morning, but make an attempt to get up at least 15 to 30 minutes earlier. Chant few rounds after you take shower or whatever. So Brahma Muhurta is the time of more goodness. So that's when everything is still sleep. That's when the powerful time. Where do you chant? Either in the temple or in your altar. It's called sacred time and sacred place. And that is when we chant. When we're chanting, we chant and hear. Chant the Maha Mantra and hear the Maha Mantra. That's what Prabhupada recommended. And all acharyas recommends that. And what are the four regular principles? Number one, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no drugs or whatsoever, mild altering drugs, and no gambling. These are the four regulated principles. Four regulated principles get us to the human platform. So you be human platform. From human platform, you raise above to more of goodness, uh, to further into more of pure goodness is through chanting Mahamantra and hearing. And more importantly, also reading Srimad Bhagavatam, at least one verse a day. Prabhupada wrote 90, a long time ago in 50s and 60s, right? And this is the book. If you see some of the world renowned personalities like Gandhi talks about when doubt hurts me or haunts me, when the disappointment stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. And I immediately begin to smile amidst of overwhelming sorrow. Those who meditate on Gita will derive fresh joy and new meaning from it every day. You see, and also other people like even Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Emerson, and even Einstein. Several people, old and old people, have commented on reading Bhagavad Gita and then bathing their knowledge through Bhagavan Sri Krishna's vision of the world, and then association of the devotee. Also very powerful. Just like in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have classes every morning, 7:30 to 8:30, and also live streamed. You can also associate with the devotees and learn the Shastras, Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is very important to association. Is Sangha is very important for the detachment of matter. So, and then 15:1, these are the verses, very nice analogy, three verses Bhagavan Sri Krishna says. And let me go through that before we get to 16th chapter. This will be very powerful because there's a connection point from here to 16th chapter. The Supreme Person of Godhead, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches downwards, whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Beautiful, beautiful analogy. And then 15:2, the branches of this tree extends downwards and upwards, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of senses. This tree also has the roots downwards, going down, and those are bound to fruitive actions of human society. So when the roots are going down, is you're binding to the fruitive actions of human society. That means our consciousness is binding to the three modes of material nature, mostly mode of passion and ignorance. And 3 to 4, it talks about the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and where its foundation is. But with the determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. We just went through that. How the weapon of detachment? By 16 rounds, 4 regulated principles, and also sadhu sangha, associating with the sadhus. So you have the weapon of detachment through the knowledge. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since the time immemorial. Here in these verses, Bhagavan Sri Krishna eavesdropping us how the Goloka Vrindavan is. So when the soul, conditional soul, liberated, goes there, and it never comes back. So we'll have our original constitutional position of serving Bhagavan Sri Krishna established. But of course, that is established while you were here, so that you would bathe your intellectual consciousness with Bhagavan Sri Krishna's knowledge, devotees' realizations, associating with sadhus, devotees, so that towards the end of life, we think Bhagavan Sri Krishna, so that next life will be in the spiritual world. That is our goal. And the 5, for those who are free from false prestige, illusion, false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with this material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who's unbridled, who know how to surrender to the Supreme, attain that eternal kingdom. So, and this is subsequently talks about how that supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by sun, moon, fire, electricity. Those reach it never return to this world. It is self-illuminated by Brahma Jyoti. And similarly, living entities are conditioned worlds are mind eternal fragmental parts. It talks about. So we are all eternal our soul is eternal fragmental parts of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, but we are conditioned here, struggling hard with 6 senses, which includes the mind. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna keeps on, goes through several of these verses. In the interest of time, we will skip them. And then the important verse here, before we go to 16th chapter, we could talk about the 15:15. Sarvasya shaham hridasanya visto mata smrtir jnanam aporhanam cha vedasya sarvai aham eva vedyo vedanta krit iva vedyeva chaham. Here, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Prabhupada translates, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas. So this is the pinnacle verse in Bhagavad Gita. It summarizes our intricate nature with the Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Bhagavan Sri Krishna is intertwined with us. Our only thing is we need to realize our awareness has to raise from studying this knowledge by devotees associations and their mercy, so that we can realize that we are part and parcel of our entire. Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about our both spiritual and material world comes from his energies, right? So we are completely intertwined with these energies. And that's what we need to understand through this knowledge. And then the 16 is and it talks about here, 20th verse, the last verse in this, most confidential part of Vedic literature, knowledge. O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know the perfection. And now the 16th chapter, the divine and demonic nature, and the verse 16:1 to 16:3. Right? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattvas Samuddir Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Dhanam Dhamascha Jnanascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodas Tyagaha Sanstir Apaisunam Daya Bhutesva Alolupvam Mardvam Hre Achapalam Teja Shama Dritihi Saucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. The synonyms: Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Supreme Personality of Godhead; Abhayam, the fearlessness; Sattva Samuddhihi, purification of one's existence; Jnana, in the knowledge; Yoga, of linking up; Vyavastitihi, the situation; Dhanam, charity; Damaha, controlling the mind; Cha, and Yagna, the performance of sacrifice; Cha, and Swadhyaha, study of Vedic knowledge; Tapaha, austerity; Arjvam, simplicity; Ahimsa, non-violence; Tyagam, truthfulness; Akrodhaha, freedom from anger; Tyagaha, renunciation; Santihi, tranquility; Apaisunam, aversion to fault finding; Daya, mercy; Bhuteshu, towards all living entities; Luptvam, freedom from greed; Mardvam, gentleness; Rihi, modesty; Achapalam, determination; Tejaha, vigor; Chama, forgiveness; Dritihi, fortitude; Saucham, cleanliness; Drodhaha, freedom from envy; not; Atimanita, expectation of honor; Bhavanti, are; Sampadam, the qualities; Dvaivim, the transcendental nature; Abhijatasya, of one who is born of Bharata, O son of Bharata. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion of honor, These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belongs to godly men endowed with divine nature. So these are very beautifully says. Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about very beautifully these 26 qualities actually. Sorry, I'm trying to open up something. So, continuation of purport. In the beginning of the 15th chapter, the banyan tree of this material world, as explained, the extra roots coming out of it were compared to the activities of living entities, some auspicious, some inauspicious. In the 9th chapter also, the devas are godly and the asuras, the ungodly and demons were explained. So here Prabhupada explains, just like in the banyan tree, so lower you go in the roots, when the roots go down, you go lower, and you are bind to three more material nature. So you have to elevate to the upper branches, and eventually to the Bhagavan Sri Krishna's abode. Right? How do you do that? Through developing these divine qualities. That's what Prabhupada is explaining here. Now, according to the Vedic rites, activities in the modes of goodness are considered auspicious for progress on the path of liberation. And such activities are known as Daivi Prakriti, transcendental by nature. And those who are situated in the transcendental nature make progress on the path of liberation. For those who are acting in the modes of passion and ignorance, on the other hand, there is no possibility of liberation. So, modes of passion and ignorance binds the soul or consciousness to the material nature, life after the life. And that's the key. Either they will have to remain in this material world as a human being, if you are in more of passion or ignorance, or that descend among the species of animals or even the lower life forms. And that's what Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about in this chapter. And Prabhupada explains further here. In this 16th chapter, the Lord explains both the transcendental nature and its attendant qualities, the demonic nature and its qualities. He also explains the advantages and disadvantages of these qualities. The word abhijatasya, in reference to one born of transcendental qualities or godly tendencies, is very significant. To beget a child in a godly atmosphere is known in the Vedic scriptures as Garbhadana Samskara. If the parents want a child in the godly qualities, they should follow the 10 principles recommended for the social life of human being. What are these 10 principles of recommended for the social life of human being? To have divine qualities and the children born of divine qualities. These are the 10 samskaras, purification processes. This is a guide for cultivating the godly qualities in human life, and having godly qualities with having the children of these godly qualities. Garbhadana Samskara, Prabhupada talks about their conception, right? Performed before conception, sanctifying the act of procreation to invite a spiritually minded soul. And similarly, Pumshavana Samskara, that is fetus blessing the pregnant woman, right? And Simantanaya Samskara, that is parting the hair, a ceremony of a pregnant mother performed in the later stage of pregnancy to protect the mother and child. So you have performed the early months of pregnancy one and the later months of pregnancy. And Jatakarma Samskara, birthright, performed immediately after birth. Namakarana Samskara, the sacred art of giving a spiritual name. Like most of the devotees, they have initiated, they have spiritual names. So there's also first name was given according to spiritual tradition. So number 6, Annaprasana Samskara, first eating ceremony, celebrated with the child first intake of solid food. Here, even when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on this planet, he also had this Annaprasana Samskara given by Sachimata and his father. And usually they give money or a book, Srimad Bhagavatam book, whichever child picks first, that's how the child life goes. Apparently, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picked Srimad Bhagavatam. So 7th is Chudakaj, Chuda Samskara, hair cutting ceremony. Panaya Samskara, sacred third ceremony. Vedam Samskara, beginning of Vedic study. Samvarta, Vaibha Samskara, that's the graduation or marriage rites ceremony. These are the 10 who are following that nowadays. So that means we don't have God conscious children if we don't have this. So Prabhupada continues in purport. In Bhagavad Gita, we have studied also before that the sex life for begetting good children in Krishna. He himself talked about a prior chapter. The sex life is not condemned, provided the process is used for Krishna consciousness. Those who are in Krishna consciousness at least should not beget the children like cats and dogs, but should beget them so that they may become Krishna conscious after birth. That should be the advantage of children born of father and mother absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And the social institutions known as Varnasrama Dharma, in this purport, Prabhupada clearly talks about Varnasrama Dharma, elaborates on this. It's going to be very interesting read here. Varnasrama Dharma, the institution of dividing society into 4 divisions of social life and 4 occupational divisions or castes, is not meant to divide human society according to birth. This is by your character, not the birth. Such divisions are in terms of educational qualifications. Prabhupada explains there. So they are to keep the society in a state of peace and prosperity. The qualities mentioned here are explained as transcendental qualities meant for making a person progress in spiritual understanding so that he can get liberated from the material world. The purpose of human life is to have progress in spiritual understanding. The Varnasrama system creates that impetus for the conditioned souls. In the Varnasrama institutions, the sannyasi or the person in renounced order of life is considered to be the head or the spiritual master of all the social statuses and orders. A Brahmana is considered to be the spiritual master of the 3 other sections of a society, namely the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Sudras. Kshatriyas are the administrators who protect the country and the land and the people, who give them shelter, and the Vaishyas are mercantile. Mostly they were supposed to have a business, particularly the cultivation and raising the cows and cattle, because cows are very important aspects of Varnashrama system. And the Sudras are the one laborers. They all work for all of the other three orders in the Varnashrama system. But a sannyasi who is on the top of the institution is considered to be the spiritual master of the Brahmanas also. For a sannyasi, the first qualification should be fearlessness. Prabhupada elaborates on the fearlessness as a prerequisite for sannyasi, or as you progressing in spiritual consciousness, to the extent you surrender to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, to that extent you become fearlessness. Because sannyasi has to be alone without any support or guarantee of support. He has simply to depend on the mercy of Supreme Personal Godhead. If one thinks, after I leave my connections, who will protect me? He should not accept the renounced order of life. Purport. One must be fully convinced that Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect as Paramatma, is always within, that he is seeing everything, and he is always knows what one intended to do. So one must thus have the firm conviction that Krishna as a Paramatma will take care of the soul surrendered to him. That is the key. To that extent, Dhrudha Vrataha, I'm convinced, I'm living that everyday life, that any ashramas you're already sannyasi, because you already surrendered to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So one must be fully convinced that Krishna, or the Supreme Personal Godhead, in his localized aspect as Paramatma, is always within. That is seeing everyone, and he always knows that one intends what intends to do. I think we read this already. It came back, but it's good to read again. So I shall never be alone. That's what the sannyasi will think. One should think, even if I live in the darkest region of the forest, I shall be accompanied by Krishna, and he will give me all protection. That conviction is always abhayam, fearlessness. This state of mind is necessary for a person in renounced order of life. And this is what all the yogis and jnanis, all the yogis, even the bhaktas, particularly people who are in the Himalayas, they live in the nature. And I was reading Radhanath Swami book, Journey Home, and he talks about before he takes shelter of Prabhupada, how he spent in all the caves and in the forest with all the animals, ferocious animals, peacefully, because there's a Paramatma, soul exists in every life. So to the extent we are in surrendered soul, to that extent we'll live in harmony. Abhayam, Prabhupada talks about that. Then he has to purify his existence. Again, Prabhupada talks about why this entire Varnashrama system is there, is the purificatory process. You purify existence. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that is, our consciousness is completely covered over this material nature. We purify, we clean it by chanting and following four regulated principles. And that is the same process here through Varnashrama system. There are so many rules and regulations to be followed in the renounced art of life. Most important of all, sannyasi is strictly forbidden to have any intimate relationship with a woman. He is even forbidden to talk with a woman in a secluded place. Was perfectly observed by all the sannyasis. One of the best examples is Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who is Prabhupada's guru. And even when a teenage person approached him and wanted to have a private audience, and Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, no, you can discuss in front of other Vaishnavas. So that is the very important aspect Prabhupada talks about. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ideal sannyasi when he was on this planet. And when he was at Puri, his feminine devotees could not even come near to offer their respects. They were advised to bow down from a distance place. This is not a sign of hatred for women as a class, Prabhupada says, but it is as stricture imposed on the sannyasis not to have close connections with women, and also money and lust. Prabhupada explains in, in, in the next few slides. One has to follow the rules and regulations of particular status of life in order to purify his existence. Again, Prabhupada talks about purification. Varnashrama system is nothing but a purification process. For a sannyasi, intimate relations with a woman and possession of wealth for sense gratification are strictly forbidden. The ideal sannyasi was Lord Chaitanya himself, and he was learned from his life that he was very strict in religious regards to women, although he is considered to be the most liberal incarnation of Godhead, accepting the most fallen conditional souls. He strictly followed the rules and regulations of sannyasa order of life in connection with the association of women. So one of his personal associates, namely Chota Haridasa, was associated with Lord Chaitanya along with his other confidential personal associates. But somehow or other, this Chota Haridasa looked lustily on a young woman, and Lord Chaitanya was so strict that he at once rejected him from the society of his personal associates. So he was that strict. For a sannyasi or anyone who is aspiring to get out of the clutches of material nature, trying to elevate himself to the spiritual nature and go back home, back to Godhead, for him looking towards the material possessions, a woman for sense gratification, not even enjoying them, but just looking towards them with such a propensity is so condemned that he had better commit suicide before experiencing such illicit desires. So these are the process of purification. This is a process of purification because Prabhupada also explains elsewhere that the sex, out of all these sense gratification, the sex, desires of sex, lust, is the number one binding, strong binding to the material modes. And now greed and the wealth. So these are the things we need to detach. And this is the process of purification process Prabhupada explains here. The next item is Jnana Yoga Vyavastiti, being engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. Sannyasi life is meant for distributing the knowledge to the householders and others who have forgotten their real life of spiritual advancement, and sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door for his livelihood. But this does not mean that he is a beggar. Humility is also one of the qualifications of transcendentally situated person. Out of sheer humility, the sannyasi goes from door to door, not exactly from the purpose of begging, but to see the householders and awaken them in Krishna consciousness. This is the duty of sannyasi. Just like Sukadeva Goswami is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, he's just goes from house to house, just barely stays for milking a cow. Time of milking a cow is about 7 to 8 minutes. And even by that much of time is enough for a person to get purified, other people to run into sannyasis. If he is actually advanced and so ordered by the spiritual master, he should preach Krishna consciousness with logic and understanding. And if one is not so advanced, he should not accept the renounced order of life. But even if one has accepted the renounced order of life without sufficient knowledge, he should engage himself fully in hearing from a bona fide spiritual master to cultivate knowledge. A sannyasi or one in the renounced order of life must be situated in fearlessness, sattva samuddhiti, purity, jnana yoga, knowledge. That's the important. And the next item is charity. Charity is meant for householders. The householders should earn lively by honorable means and 50% of the income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over world should be done. Or at least as householders, you can start from 10, 20%, work it up, right? That's what Prabhupada also mentioned. Thus, a householder should give up the charity to institutional societies that engage in that way. The charity should be given to the right receiver. That's important. There are different kinds of charity. Charity in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended by scriptures. Charity in the mode of passion, ignorance, not recommended because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only for propagating Krishna consciousness all over the world. The charity, that's charity, the mode of goodness. So then, as far as Dhamma, the self-control is concerned, it is not only meant for other orders of religious life, they're especially meant for the householders. Although he has a wife, householders should not use sense for sex unnecessarily. There are strict restrictions of householders for even in the sex life. We should only be engaged for propagation of children. This is also purificated process. So if he does not require children, he should not enjoy in sex life. This is not, and Prabhupada explains further here. He must control his sex life and should not beget a child without purpose of serving Krishna. That is the key. If he is able to beget children who will be Krishna conscious, one can produce hundreds of children, but without this capacity, one should not indulge only for sensual pleasures. So sacrifice is another one, is another item for householders because sacrifice requires large amount of money. So those who was in the order of Varnashrama system, brahmachari, vaishya, sannyas, vanaprastha, sannyas, no money. So they may be begging. So performance of different types of sacrifice is meant for householders. That's what Prabhupada talks about. So the important here is the best sacrifice recommended is by Sankirtana Yajna by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Sankirtana Yajna is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best and most inexpensive sacrifice. Everyone can adopt it and derive benefits. So this is the three items, namely charity, sense control, performance of sacrifice are meant for householders, Prabhupada says. And the Swadhyaya, Vedic study, is a student. Brahmachari should have no connection with the woman. They should live a life of celibacy, engage in mind, studying the Vedic literature and cultivation of spiritual knowledge. It's called Swadhyaya. And then tapas and austerities are meant for retired people. And the householders, the retired person must always remember that there is four divisions of life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. So vanaprastha is a retired life. So after grahastha, householder life, one should retire. If one lives for 100 years, the first 25 years of student, next 25 years of householder life, next 25 years retired life, next 25 years is renounced order of life. So these are the regulations of Vedic religious discipline. The man retired from the household life must practice austerities with body, mind, and tongue. That is tapasya. The entire monastic society is meant for tapasya. Without tapasya or austerity, no human being can get liberation. The theory that there is no need to be austerity in life, that one can go speculating everything in life, is not the way. It's not given in the Vedas. And also it talks about show bottle spiritualist who wants the followers rather than these austerities. And the simplicity is the next one. Is meant for everybody in all Varnashrama system. Simple living and high thinking is the motto. And ahimsa is another one. The important ahimsa is not killing the animals, because killing the animals is you are checking their progress in spiritual growth because they are take birth again. So that is not recommended. And real ahimsa is that we're not killing the animals. Satyam, one should not distort the truth, and it talks about akrodha, and means check the angers, passion and lust. Apaisunam, not finding fault, very modest. Achalpam, determination, one should not be agitated or frustrated. Tejas is for Kshatriyas. Saucham, cleanliness, and not expecting the honors. These are 26 qualities. These qualities are developed by practice, Prabhupada says. This is the highest form of transcendental realization. Devotees, thank you very much for being with me in this journey. I apologize for taking 1 minute over. Thank you very much. Please forgive me for any mistakes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.